Hey everyone, it is time again. Women in Tech, like a boss. And boy, oh boy, do we have a guest for you today. Michelle Dennedy, with her Doctor of Law, so I should say Dr. Dennedy, she's a renowned expert on privacy. She's championed it just about everywhere. She's even litigated violations against it, and she's led numerous initiatives on everything from the Identity Project. So she's no stranger to podcasts, to regulatory compliance, to privacy engineering. The latter of which she literally wrote the book on, as in a manifesto, in fact. And so we're thrilled to host Cisco's former chief compliance officer and now the CEO of Drumwave. Hello, Michelle.
Hello, and thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be on Like a Boss.
Oh, we're so excited. And at the risk of sounding fangirl, a million years ago when you were the chief privacy officer at Sun Microsystems, and I was just, a lowly person in the trenches, I was like, Michelle, wow, amazing. And what you've done since. So fantastic to have you on the show. Absolutely thrilled.
Thank you. And you were never a lowly person. You're underselling, my dear.
Well, I had a great time. Sun was just fantastic people and terrific learning and just beyond brilliance at all levels. It was an amazing thing to be a part of it. So let's dive right in. So talk to us a little bit about Drumwave, just a little overview, and tell us what stage it's at.
Yeah, so Drumwave is, we have made the leap from ProServe to services. So they were incorporated in 2018 before I came on board. And it's an analytics and visualization platform that is honing down on what we call data value. So data value really is discovering, experiencing, curating, and producing data and data sets and rules about data so that it's usable, so that it's economically feasible. And so, of course, you prevent risk. So I came on board in 2019, and we are still pre-Series A. We just launched our data audit comprehensive product just in time for the pandemic. And we've been gaining traction on Zoom and all sorts of other media platforms ever since, and growing, and now looking for Series A.
Oh, fantastic. You guys timed that just right. So tell us, is Drumwave seeking funding or partnerships at this stage?
Yeah, so we're looking for about a $15 million placement for growth. So we've got 3 SaaS products that are already in the marketplace in Brazil and in the United States, and we're looking to grow.
Now, you've got such a tremendous and storied history on data privacy. And so I'd like to hear, and I'm sure our listeners would as well, how your vision now is starting to impact Drumwave's vision on how you guys are going to change the world.
It's pretty incredible. And in fact, it goes back to your my Sun roots. Scott McNeely is on our board for Drumwave. We're looking at what do we do now that we can harness the power of data? Where does it go? How does it explode into the United States and beyond? And so I came on board thinking, oh, they want me to consult. This is cute. I can help them. I like to help out young companies in the Valley. I've done lots of advisory boards over the years. And they said, no, we want you all the way, all the time to come in as our CEO and really lead that vision. We like that idea that data should be on the balance sheet. We think we know how. We're measuring it. We're creating metrics. And now we just need someone to drive it and drive us to the next level.
Well, it's such an extension of what you've done for a decade with the Identity Project and really at the foundation of, I guess, your whole career.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think there's so many other people that they want to be a CEO or they want to be the boss. I've just wanted to make a difference my entire career. I never set out to be a CEO ever. I never thought I would be one.
I think that's a really good segue into the next question is, what do you think defines you as a good leader? What are those characteristics?
It's such a good question, and it's hard to answer. What I think if I had to sum it up in a word, it would be accidental.
So. Now that's an answer I haven't heard before, but okay, go on, tell us more.
I think that my gift, if I have one, is I can see you. So when you and I first interacted on LinkedIn, it wasn't your credentials or our shared history or even your voice on your show. I can tell what you're good at. I can hear that Canadian deliciousness of your voice. I can tell that you're a connector of people and you honor people. So when I think about that, I think, okay, what can we do together to do business? What can we do? Like if you were in the room right now, which cocktail would I serve you? That's how I approach work as well. Not cocktails all the time, with you do
Well, when you
you.
need one, I mean, sometimes, yeah.
A girl's got to do what a girl's got to do. But
Absolutely.
what I really don't like is folks that say, okay, here are the things that you are known for being good at. Here are the things that need some, I'll put air quotes around it, work. And then in a traditional boss leadership setting, we point at you and go, Michelle, you're not very organized. Instead, I look for people and say, where is your passion? Not just what do you like to do, what are you inevitably doing? I am inevitably talking about data. On vacation, I talk about data. In my home, I talk about data. It's not that I even think about thinking about data. It's what I do. And so I need to be around other people that are thinking about governance, people that are thinking about how do I write rules, other people who think, gosh, I really get excited by finishing projects, that last mile. And so when I put a team together, I'm looking for all those different personas, and I want to really groom those personas so that that part of them, the part that they love and they can't deny, is the part that really, really is on fire. That's where you really find teams working together. If instead you put them in a room and you beg them to not be themselves, you find these stilted, hierarchical, I'm doing it because it's 9 to 5, and you only get so far. Some people can sustain that pressure, but typically you're not going to get your best work out of people in that way.
Oh, amen to that. Can we clone you? We need more leaders like you.
It'd be terrifying. We'd all be wandering all over like a bunch of cats.
Oh, no, but we'd be, doing what we're passionate about and excelling at it. So that's not a bad thing either. I'd be okay with being a cat wandering around. Yeah, I'd be all right.
And some of my best friends are like really like they make lists and things. I mean, I can't even imagine a list. What's that? But that's why I partner with those people, because I honor that skill set. I do not possess it.
Well, see, there you go, right? We've all got to stick in our swim lanes and make room in the lane for, other people to do what we need to do, right?
Exactly.
That's the way to go. Now, switching gears a little bit, we've all had some hard things in our past. Can you tell us what the hardest thing is that you've ever had to do?
Woo, the hardest. I mean, I'm an Irish woman. We're born in tragedy. What are you talking about? I think, so personally, hands down, and I'll even put this behind the death of my mother's, which was, of course, a defining, terrible thing. But I actually very publicly and actively got divorced. And why that was the hardest thing was, A, I have 2 children that I absolutely live for. And B, it felt very much to me, I'm a pretty traditional Midwestern kind of a gal. It felt like my work life wasn't validated. My home life had been exposed. My children were at risk. So it's one of those explosions that happens that impacts absolutely every morsel of you when you have a persona. And I think this happens for people that even do something as mundane as retiring. The minute your persona is completely revealed and changed, and maybe even maybe judged a lot, I think those are the toughest times, because what you want to do is you want to cling on to the shreds of, no, I'm really a good person who can keep their marriage together. I'm really a perfect mom still that bakes brownies and is able to work a full-time job. Oh, no, trust me, I'm not falling apart at work. And yet your answer, your sort of, as you said before, accidental leadership is sometimes you just got to embrace that core and go, you know what? I'm not okay, and I've not been okay for a super long time. Let's figure out where we go from here.
I've had similar experiences, as I know several women that have it, and I call it the ripple effect, right? You don't realize it once you sort of cast that stone into the water, but the ramifications are just huge, and they go on and on and on for years, even after.
Yeah, and I think, that's an example of a personal life thing, but there's plenty of times when you present some big project you've been working on and it just blows up, or the company that you loved working for just completely falls to pieces. I think everyone has these moments, and the mistake is trying to cling back into the nostalgia of it instead of saying, all right, what did I survive? What made me stronger in that moment? What am I now free to be that I was not before? And who can I help? I mean, it really opened my eyes to other people's suffering once I recognized this wasn't like a little thing. This was earth shattering for me. I need more. And when I would stand up on stage and talk about diversity in the workplace and don't come up with a policy that says don't have dinner with women when you're still having dinner with men, because that's even more exclusionary. That closes the door even tighter. And every single time you stand on stage and you say something that instigates change, or maybe even gets to something people secretly know that they're doing and they shouldn't, you're going to get this weird, the first thing that's going to happen is you're not going to be able to get out of the ballroom because so many people are going to come up and throw their arms around you and say, oh, I have a daughter. And I always think, how did you make any of your children? I'm assuming there's a female involved somewhere, and you probably have a mom, but I'll take the I'll have a daughter people. And then people send you the emails and say, I want to talk more about this. And then a couple months later, you get the comments, the anonymous ones that say, why are you so fat and ugly talking about women's rights? Aren't you just bitter? Oh my God, another,
Troll.
DIT speech. Yeah.
Oh, these
And
trolls. Mm-hmm.
and the comments are just fascinating. And it was interesting because at one point I did share those comments with our diversity leader. And I said, my day job is very much focused on governance and promotion of product and compliance and all these sort of mundane things that I can do in my sleep. But I am obligated, I believe. I stood on the shoulders of my mother, who was one of 4 in her law school class. I want my kids to stand on my shoulders to show that I'm making change too. So I said, I just want to let you know, like, this is the kind of blowback that folks, when you're taking a chance and speaking out, are getting. And their reaction was just like, oh, maybe you're being too divisive.
Wow. Wow. Well, keep fighting the good fight, Michelle. We need more of this. So keep going.
Yeah, I mean, the feedback of like be less courageous is really kind of silly. And I think, look at where we are in this moment, in 2020. I think all is being painfully revealed of why we need to value humans, to value data, to value our societies, what's working and what's not working. It's like we've had a giant sort of global divorce. And now we have to say, we're either going to cling back and pretend that everything was cool, or we're going to say, you know what? We survived as humanity. What's next? What can we build that's better? How do we go forward from here as human beings who have learned and evolved?
Oh, indeed. So this is fun to continue down on this path, but I know that people are also really curious about Drumwave and the technology edge that you guys bring to the table and how you're different than everybody else out there.
Yeah, so it's fun. So basically, I like I said, I'm sort of the accidental leader, and I take a similar approach with data. So I'm not going to go in there and tell you where your data is or what your data is. What we do is we say, here, let's use a banking metaphor. Open a wallet. A wallet is your basic Drumwave account. And then you can register data sets wherever they are, big data, small CSV files, giant data lakes. You register them into your wallet and you have what we call a savings account. So you can now look at your data, like really look and interrogate your data. We've got some standard data apps that allow you to visualize them, to parse them, to think about them. And then once you get intrigued on what is actually going on with your data, not what people think about your data or conversations about your data, but you're actually staring into the face of your data, you can go into our creative suite, which we call Studio. So in the Studio, we have 700 different modules that can help you put data sets together and see how they correlate, see how they flow, see what they're doing organically. So that's sort of the know and explore your data. And then for me, coming from my background, the magical tool is what we call audit. So audit basically looks across the top of all these data sets and says, what's in there? Don't crawl around and tell me what's in there. Like, I'm actually looking at my metadata. I'm looking at who has loaded the data in their wallet. So I have a controller audit wallet, and I can say to them, where is my personally identifiable information? And I've got a basic library and ontology that automatically says, here's my guess. Now, you're going to miss stuff. That's why you have privacy professionals. We're not building a tool that says everything's automated and you just turn a button on and walk away and have a coffee. We want you to actually do your job better. So I'm going to give you a guess at where I think the primary sources of PII are, which are your most heavily regulated. You're going to know because the folks in your organization have registered their data, where that data is geographically on the globe. That's going to give you some hints about which kinds of laws and what kind of context you're in. You're going to know what business unit they're in. So you're going to guess marketing data probably is intended to go out into the public. Engineering data, you probably have some IP in there. And then we put a score on top of all of it. We call it the DIM score. It's data, information, and meaning. Sort of think about it as the size, weight, character is the data aspects. How many rows, how many columns, how much storage space is it occupying? Information is things like entropy, uniqueness, how interconnected it is. And then meaning includes things like risk. Personally identifiable information might be great to sell, but not if it's illegal to do so. Or information about COVID tracing might be interesting, but not if you've got under 60% of the population downloading an application and taking a test. So those kinds of scores mess with your meaning. So what we enable organizations to do is immediately get value by looking at their data and understanding what they're working with, and then thinking into the future and guiding that data, governing that data, curating that data as if it was an asset that, when under control, can actually bring you economic benefit and prevent harm.
Ooh, okay. So that's understood now, and like putting that value. I don't think really anybody's articulated sort of the value of data in that way. Taking note and going, whoa, this is big.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. It's, we're a small company, we're 35 people, but where we've landed in big financials, in big insurance organizations, in logistics companies, the first thing they do, of course, is go, how do we make more money? And that's a fairly difficult task to do because it takes some time and doing normally without this kind of analytic tool, but it's a pretty obvious one, right? It's like, if I could actually take the risk out of this data, I could sell insights or I can sell rules. So already they're excited about that. What they become more excited about as they use and experience the tool and really start speaking the language of data is how inherently powerful the upside of data is. We all, particularly in the privacy and legal fields, usually you're talking about risk. What would it cost if you had a breach? Would a patient sue you if you lost their medical data? That sort of thing is all downside risk. What we rarely talk about is, what if I had the 10 people most excited about data entropy? I mean, you're not going to find that in HR, but your data is going to tell you which people are actually actively working with data sets and enriching them with other data sets. So regardless of what their task is, you've got capability there that you have not unlocked.
Michelle, if I gave you a magic wand now and said you get to change one thing from your past, would anything be different?
Oh, I'd be afraid because I saw the movie Back to the Future. I said no to being the number 6 lawyer at Google because they wanted me to do compliance, and I was all excited. And I said, oh, that's great. IP law and privacy, those are my jams. I was a patent litigator before I did privacy. And they said, oh, we're Google. We don't have privacy problems. We want you to do SOX. Sarbanes-Oxley, because they haven't gone public yet. So, from a monetary perspective, that was probably a bad call, but I don't think I would have done any of the amazing things I've done in privacy. And I may not be the richest gal in town, but last year before I left corporate life, I literally circled the globe twice. I went to Bologna and sat and had dinner with Whit Diffie and Marty Hellman and Vince Cerf,
Jeez.
talk about the internet. I mean, it was dinner like with us sitting there. And, I've sat in China working on their 2005 privacy law, in CITO, which is their science and technology organization. I've stared into the architect of the Belt and Road Initiative. I mean, think about all the journeys that you wouldn't have taken if you just did one other thing. I don't know. I mean, it's the easy one is, of course, because I publicly outed myself as being divorced. Divorce sucks. I wish we hadn't done that. But that's not one magic wand. That's like 20 years of us making bad decisions together.
Yeah, that's a big ass magic wand for sure.
And who knows what my kids would be doing if that happened. I mean, maybe I would have boys instead of girls. I don't know.
Well, there you go. And now let's ask the question about what book that you recommend, the next generation of women in tech read, aside, of course, from your two books, the Privacy Engineer Manifesto and your new one, the companion edition to that. What book do you recommend people read?
Oh, okay. This is a hard one. The Golden Thread is good. But I think for an entertainment one and one that's kind of an oddball, read The Devil in the White City.
Do you have any other tips to offer?
It's not going to be a linear journey. You're not just going to build. You're going to be faced with ethical dilemmas. You're going to need a lot of courage, and you're going to need a lot of friends that know how to laugh along the way, because it's dark out there sometimes. I want you to laugh. Bring your full, silly, goofy, nerdy, sporty, whatever self to whatever you're doing, because the known ways have only gotten us here. So having that confidence and being a little bit embarrassed when you let too much out of the box is perfectly fine.
Yeah, it's amazing to have that network. And you're so right about laughing. Like, I'm a STEMinist and a nerd. Like, I'm just a science nerd, and I like to laugh about silly stuff, and I don't care what people think.
I love that you're a STEMinist. I've never heard that.
Yeah, well, you are too, obviously.
I love it.
You just didn't know until I told you that you were.
Hey, I love it.
Okay, now how can our audience help you, Michelle? Is there anything we can do?
Well, hey, if you've got a bucket of Series A money, you can give me a call at mdennedy@drumwave.com, because we're on a Series A roll right now. But I think most importantly, look at your data. Look at your own data and say, what can I do better with data? How can I govern this better? What are the ethics? And let's have that conversation.
All right, last question here. Of course, the most important after we've talked about, data privacy and all that stuff is, of course, shoe style. But now the twist here is that if you were to name the shoe style that closely reflected your personality, are you a boots, stilettos, sneakers, flats, or a flip-flops kind of gal?
Ooh. Well, in my normal habitat, I am stiletto all the way, because I love a beautiful shoe. But lately, I got to say, the last 3 months, I'm a Havaiana flip-flop kind of gal.
I haven't even put flip-flops on the last few months. I mean, there's just no point. I'm just barefoot in the house. There you go. All right. Well, Michelle, thank you so much for sharing your time and your insights here today. And we wish you terrific success with your Series A fundraise at Drumwave. And we're so anxious to be watching closely about all of the changes you're going to bring to this world with respect to data value and data as an asset. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Gia.
And I'm Layla, and we're the host of the She Effing Did That podcast, where, like Loralyn, we talk about women who've made an impact in their fields.
On our podcast, we research and share stories about women we never learned about in history class. Join us wherever you listen to podcasts, with a drink if you like, because we are celebrating inspirational women all over the world.
So sit back, relax, and lead like a boss.
And how about that fantastic intro by Touch Circle?